Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, how aware are you of your consciousness expanding and your life expanding around that? Because that's what happens. And let's tune into that. Let's find out more about that. So maybe you can be more sensitive to your own expansion and use it better. And in order for us to do that, we're going to speak to my favorite angel communicator, um, an old friend and a woman who does amazing work with the angels, Ariel and Raphael, and we'll talk about her, the way she works with them. So let me introduce to you again and again and again, as I've done before, Adria Estebu. Adria, welcome back to Energy Stew.
You. So delighted, as always, to be here with you.
Thank you. So, um, we were talking before we started the show about what the angels wanted to talk about.
Mm.
And you said, and I understand it as an intuitive myself, that we have no idea what we're going to hear. And so you were kind of like blank slate, it's like, so I said, well, what do they want to say? And you said, well, you told me the gist of it, but you didn't really have a sense of what they were going to talk about in detail. And, and, and you were just as interested as me, as I am, and our audience.
It's a funny thing being a channel because it's like being in the front seat of the classroom, you know. I'm just there hearing it along with everyone else at the same moment. It's just a very bizarre and wonderful thing.
Yes, and I love being intuitive and being a blank slate. There's such a freedom in that
Yes, yeah.
because we're not responsible. Well, we are responsible for the information. In other words, it better be good. It better work. We
Right.
better be happy with it. But we don't have to worry about being smart. They are smart for us.
Yes, I get continually surprised. And these days, I think as things are opening up more and more, just generally globally for humankind, and I imagine for other energy forms, I'm not sure, but just the universe is really new in many ways, and so our abilities are new, but because they're so new, we don't really know what they are yet. So I've found there's almost no repetition now with what's coming through from the angels, and I channel for groups every week now. And it's something new, something new. So I'm just continually surprised at what we're moving into, what our skills are now, what's open for us. I was using the analogy the other day. It's just because I kind of, I'm a slow person, I like to synthesize and write books. And, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. It's just catch the recording, put it up, catch the recording, put it up. It's just amazing the velocity of what's coming through. And because what I'm gathering is because we're growing so fast, our potential is expanding tremendously, very, very rapidly.
Yeah, and so wonderful. And then let's see what the angels have to say about how to live with that. What do we do about it?
This is Raphael. Curiosity and intention, we would say, are the greatest tools in this time because it's not about being master of anything, because you won't, any of you have had time to become masters of this. But if there's something that you see or spark, you wish you could see, it probably is because it's on your horizon. And then there's that intention. I want to grow into that. I want to know more about that, or I want to playfully explore that. And you will see the synchronicities that come, the teachers in this era much, much more so than ever before, are those synchronistic walk by, walk through, right? Someone says something and you got what you needed in that moment and they move on. And then there's another book or another teacher or another conversation that you're in or over here. And you grow that way very, very rapidly. So it's not about a systemic kind of knowledge that you need to master in order to be interdimensional. It's about uh, having that curiosity and intention, and then watch what shows up.
Right. And I've been learning a lot about the difference between goals and intention, because goals are defined. And as soon as you define something, you create limitation. And so intention is really a vague sense of purpose, of what we desire something, but not in as clear a way as a goal. But the universe then can show up providing results of what might be a goal, just because we have intention.
Yeah, it's really different. This is Adria. Yeah, it's one of the things that angels say often, and I've experienced myself here, is that what they're calling old earth, which is just basically what we grew up in or what we had up until 3 or 5 years ago, is very linear. And we did have goals and steps to get there and a certain number of years to achieve the goals. And we could see it. We could see it kind of mapped out. Maybe there are surprises sometimes, but generally the way the world worked, you accomplish things sort of slowly, and it built like that in a linear way. And now I find things come so fast, and not always, but generally in surprising all directions. And I'm definitely not in control of, okay, here's the plan, here's the goal and the timeline, and I'll take steps towards it, is very, very different, which is disorienting, but also fun.
Well, life wasn't easy in the old way because there never been any straight lines. So if we have a goal and trying to create a straight line to the goal, we'll be detoured in many ways.
I used to believe in the straight lines. I guess I don't anymore.
Good. It's amazing how life unfolds in quantum ways, let's call it, rather than linear ways.
It is very surprising and just gorgeous to see how things show
up. Well, also to be to live in that freedom is hard to be disappointed, because you're only disappointed for what you're trying to control.
Yes. Yeah, or the old scripts that have played out 20 times in our lives, so we expect them again. I think that's one of the work, quote unquote, work on our side, is being willing to let that go and say, well, it might this time, it might be completely, completely different and new. And really that openness to not know. So we're walking into using different dimensional skills without even knowing what that word means, maybe. And yet suddenly we can talk to our own soul, or ask love, what are the parameters here? What's lighting up with love? I mean, the kinds of tools the angels have been showing are so fun. Just new ways of perceiving opening up for us.
Yeah, and that's the point, is that, and I'm just recalling a book years ago by Carlos Castaneda. And he talked about walking through life with fuzzy eyes.
Mm.
And I think that's what you're talking about, is that if we try to fix it, focus it in ways that we want to kind of entrap it, then we get stuck. But if we go through life with fuzzy-eyed, then we're much more in allowance of anything.
And I do think there's also as we come maybe into a time that's less about polarity, it's less about right and wrong and consulting all these wisdom keepers, whether they're angels or guides, and asking them to show us the right way, quote unquote, right way. It's much more about noticing now that we have tremendous perceptive abilities that are a bit new to us, that in some sense I think we used to lean on the angels for, and now they're saying, hey, let's just show you how it works. And then you can, when you're making a decision or wanting to create something new in your life, you can look at it with all these different angles and see what's lighting up for you with joy, where the universe has the energy to meet you, in what time and all of that. So it's much more nuanced.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's just a way of surrendering, basically.
Mm.
And I love the idea of curiosity, but more. I even prefer the word wonder.
Mm.
Seek wonder. Let's live in wonder and seek more wonder.
There's plenty of opportunity for that these days.
I know. I'm so excited. I mean, if we look around us at the world, it's definitely doesn't look safe or happy even.
Mm.
There's a lot of fear, a tremendous amount of fear. And I think it's really to show us how not to live.
Yeah, I have that inkling as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to trust. I believe in the word serendipity and synchronicity as the way life works. And so living in wonder allows that to be true.
So this is Angel Raphael. Yes, to speak of this point of fear. Many people have talked in recent years about this great reveal. And in some cases, we think it's going to show up a bit. We don't disagree with that, but we think it's going to show up a bit more simply, perhaps, than people imagine. In other words, perhaps it's not some authority figure saying, oh, yes, you're right, we've been hiding the knowledge of UFOs. But maybe as people behave in ways that are so clearly destructive and wrong on every level for the human psyche, it just becomes so suddenly apparent, oh, we shouldn't behave that way. This is ridiculous, right?
Right.
So some of this revealing comes through the examples or the clarity that people now have as a collective towards these pinpoints, let's say, of so much violence and fear, and looking at it in a new way. Oh, we don't just have to do this because it's been getting worse and worse, or different in the modern age with violence. We don't have to do that at all. Look how stupid that is. We don't want to live that way anymore. So the reveal comes really case by case, as well as, yes, there'll be some collective moments of reveal, but notice that in yourself when you see things that just seem wrong, so to speak. Maybe they are. Maybe it's time to live a different way as a society.
Right. So don't be so afraid of what shows up. See it as opportunity.
Absolutely, yes. This is Raphael, and it's all right to have the clarity. This can't go on. This is not right. And
Right.
change.
And years ago, I remember some teachings. I forget who taught them. Could have been Richard Rudd. Um, Seeing what actually came through from human design and the progress of it in the future, that it looked like we're going to be living in less fear, and not because of outward circumstances. It's just that inward in the population of the planet, fear will subside in its own miracle way.
I've definitely, this is Adria, been experiencing that myself. And the angels have spoken quite a bit about this in the last couple of years about fear leaving humanity. that we would be left essentially with the present moment kind of fear, like if you put your hand in that fire, you're going to burn, or you're about to drive off a cliff, like a real instructive, useful physical fear would still exist, but that most of the rest of the fear seems like it's leaving. And for me, over this year, what that's looked like is really facing my fears in a lot of areas and noticing the lie that's there. That the fear always wants to tell me some story about something really bad that's about to happen. And each time it keeps not happening, I'm finally like, wait a minute. Really? Because right now nothing is wrong. Okay, maybe tomorrow, yes, everything's going to fall apart, but fear keeps not being right about that. So I feel very unwilling to trust it. It still comes up for me, but less and less, because I'm seeing it for what it is, which is basically not a truth teller.
Right. And also to understand, instead of thinking that what we might be afraid of can be harmful, whatever could be harmful could just be an opportunity to be challenged to find new ways. And and also to know that we're eternal beings. More and more and more, we're seeing that this is just one lifetime of many,
Yeah.
and we're here for a purpose in this life, and let's just do it.
That perspective certainly helps when you're able to face, your own fear of death, or what does death really mean. Then it puts things in a bigger perspective for sure.
Yeah,
Stakes
less,
don't feel so high.
right. Less fear of death is so important,
Yeah.
because we understand. I mean, I'm at an age now where a lot of people are already gone, and a lot of my friends or old friends are gone, and yet um, I the only thing I worry about is that I don't want to leave.
Mm.
You know, I'll be very happy on the other side. I know how blissful and joyful and wonderful it is in higher dimensions, but I love it here. And so, but I know that we're not, unfortunately humans at this stage of our development have a limited lifespan, and it shouldn't be so limited, but it is. And yet it's all right, because we chose this life. We're all here on purpose to fulfill soul need that we've come here for,
Mm.
and some of that includes all these limitations of uh, living a certain amount of years or decades. No matter how young or old you are, the soul is always um, intended for it.
Yeah, this is a real fun one. If I could take that segue that the angels were just teaching about a couple weeks ago, listening to your soul. So the way they describe soul as a definition is that part of yourself that knows when you came into this lifetime, okay, here's the big building blocks, like the really significant people, or the challenge I want to overcome, or this passion I'm going to have in this life, or a particular kind of service, so the big things. And so a lot of that is, they were describing it like a long game, not like a long con, I guess. But some things take 30 or 40 years to set up. You're getting to one of those moments, right? So as you're making decisions, things feel more wide open now. Maybe I want to it just radically changed my life. But wait a minute, maybe I want to check in with my soul. Am I about to come to one of those moments that's taken 40 years to set up? And just checking in with the soul level, which I thought was so fun. Yeah, just another really fun tool to not, again, that your soul is right, and as opposed to the more conscious present moment
Right,
of
but
your,
then the question is,
another
a,
perceptive.
a lot of people might say, okay, that's fine. So how do I do that? How do I check in with my soul?
It's so, I find that through the angels, it's so, and I do want to say something about that in a second. It's so much more organic and gentle. Again, you don't have to know. I think it's that intention to begin to listen. This is Raphael. Yes, many people are teaching right now systems, ancient systems that may not work anymore. So understand that in the fluidity of this moment, all things come to you. The knowledge that you want can come quite transparent and immediate. So wish for it if it's something you want. If someone mentions something that sounds interesting, literally have that curiosity and intent. Okay, I'm going to practice that. I'm
And
going
that's how
to.
our soul is bringing it to us.
Yes.
It's great. So really, it's about being mindful, watching the subtleties that life communicates its truth to us for us to follow.
Yeah, or where's the little spark that shows up? Wait a minute, what did
Right.
that person just say? Or
Exactly. You
mm,
know, in a moment, all of a sudden you get an aha that you never expected.
yeah,
It's
it's
wonderful.
definitely the time of the unexpected.
But let's hold it as blessings. Let's see that life is just going to continually surprise us,
Hmm.
and we can live in wonder about it and stay tuned.
Yeah, and through our curiosity and intent, start to shape that. We don't have to know how.
Right.
Like more people in my life, or I like to be a jazz singer, whatever it is, could be metaphysical or practical. And just see what shows up to guide you in that direction. It's very fun.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And I think this conversation, I think, is so important to grasp on that deep level of allowing the universe, ourselves, just allowing ourselves to be part of the greater universe and flow with it.
Mhm. This is Raphael. That is in essence what the new era is. It is flow rather than structure. So rather than systems of knowledge, now it's about letting go to get to your destination. You don't have to scaffold up one link at a time. You can just let go of what you're hanging on to and zoom right over to the next thing. If you don't like that, you zoom right over to something else. So there's a tremendous fluidity to this time.
I love this. It sounds so wonderful. Thank you. It's I'm so enjoying talking about living this way. Um, I feel I've been doing it. I guess even the audience should feel we've been all been doing it more and more because that's the time we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is Adria. I think it's fun that I feel like from the angels anyway, there's no pressure to know what word to call it or what the heck is going on because it's all so new. But just notice, oh, this is a different sensation, or I have this intuition or inkling that's I've never had before. And a lot of their advice for people who are coming into their new gifts is just notice it. And if you like it, just appreciate that it's there. You don't have to try to understand it all right away.
Yeah, again, that's trying to be linear about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why our minds, and I know that in fifth dimensional consciousness, our minds are not supposed to be as respected as they have been in the past, or, you know, uh,
They're
uh,
not at the steering wheel. Let's put it
right,
that
right.
way.
We're passengers and the universe is flowing through us. That's beautiful.
Or our heart is at the steering wheel. I'd say it that way. Either one of those. Yeah, it's
The
not.
same thing. I think a heart is all about being at one. And when you're at one with the greater universe too. Beautiful.
Mm.
So anyway, we're getting near the end of the show. I know that you have a workshop coming up shortly about expansion.
Yes,
Want to
first
talk
Saturday in
about?
May, and the whole theme of the month the angels have given for May is expansion. So there'll be something every week on that. My website is adriaestrabu.love.
And it's a wonderful, um, yeah, I started with my URLs before .love existed, but I think I would have liked it.
Oh, as soon as I saw that, it's like, oh, I have to have that. I
Yeah,
love that it exists.
oh, that's wonderful. So, and so people can reach you through your website.
Yeah, and I'm also on YouTube. That's under my name, Adria Estrabou. I don't really do social media these days, but those are the two main ways. And if you got on my email list, yep, I'm that old school. You can see what's coming up next.
Good, yeah, I get your emails, and I'm always excited about what is coming up. Wow, you know, it's so interesting how we've been chosen. Like you've been chosen by Ariel and Raphael to work with, and it's so interesting how they know what they're doing, and they found the right person.
I
It's,
never would have seen it coming, but I'm so glad it did.
yeah, so good for you. You know, this it's so cool to live a life like this, and you know, I certainly I don't know what angels speak to me per se because I haven't asked. I just know that I love the information, and as long as it feels right, I'm glad to have a host of communicators work through me.
Yeah.
So good, but then again, you know, there are particular angels, and we've talked about that in previous shows. How they, when they're talking through you, it doesn't mean they're not talking and doing other work all over the universe.
Absolutely. Anyone listening, you have angels, though it's not that I'm the special one. I have this ability to communicate, which might be a little more rare, but you have your angels, so you can ask them for help and start talking to them.
And I was just saying that to someone yesterday that you know who was complaining about not getting results, and I said, "Well, you're not asking the angels. Ask your angels."
Oh, they're so good with results. I'm telling you, ask them for anything, and they love to help.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, Adria Esterbu, thank you so much for being on Energy Stew again. It's so great to talk with you.
My pleasure. It was good to laugh with you again.
That's wonderful. And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. I can be reached at peter at heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.